This is a video for creating a confidence interval for a sample average. This is called a t-interval. The formula is x bar, this is my center, plus or minus my critical value, times in this s over the square root of n piece. This is my standard error, and the entire amount that I'm adding is the margin of error. So this formula is really similar to what was going on when we were dealing with confidence intervals for one proportion. I'm using a lot of that same vocabulary. One new thing is degree of freedom. Degree of freedom is equal to the number of groups minus 1. So in this case, I am trying to figure out how many fruit snacks are in an average pouch of Fruitastic fruit snacks. I sample 41 bags, so my degree of freedom there is going to be 40. I'll need that when I'm finding my critical value, but let's plug everything else into this equation. My average that I found for the sample was 6.7. I'm going to need the critical value for 40 degrees of freedom. My sample standard deviation is 2.2, and my number of samples is 41. So assuming I have T star, I immediately have these intervals. They're not that awful. So I'm going to go to my table, t-table I have on the side. And the way that this thing works is I have my degrees of freedom in this column, and on the bottom I have my confidence level. I want to be 90% confident, so that's the second row here. And for degree of freedom, I want 40. So I want where the 40 meets 90%. This gives me a critical value of 1.684 or so. So I'm going to type this in my calculator once with the minus to get the low, and once with the plus to get the high. Let's try that out and see what we get. So the low, 6.7 minus 1.684, and I have 2.2 divided by the square root of 41. I have 6.12 fruit snacks. I'll use FS as my notation for fruit snacks for my units. When I do the same thing with the plus, I get 7.28 fruit snacks. So my sentence that would look that would go along like with this would look like we are 90% confident that the interval of 6.12 to 7.28 fruit snacks contains the true average number of fruit snacks in a pouch of Fruitastic. I'm even using the same sentence frame where I have I am or we are blank percent confident that the interval of blank to blank contains the true. The only difference here is we're looking at averages instead of proportions. So this means that I'm allowed to do problems with units. For example, the units here are fruit snacks, but the units could be stuff like inches or pounds or centimeters or whatever the problem happens to be about. This opens up our toolbox considerably when it comes to statistical analysis.